Welcome. Tonight we drift into a story where ordinary life tilts just a little into the extraordinary. Imagine yourself lying in a quiet room, the window cracked open, the late night air brushing softly against your cheek. The city hum is faint, a low murmur beneath your own steady breath. And then imagine if you could hear not just the sounds around you, but the unspoken thoughts of those nearby. A flood of words, confessions, and little secrets slipping into your mind without invitation. You probably wouldn't survive that in the real world. It would be too much, too loud, too raw. But here, safely tucked in your blankets, it's only a dream. A strange, delicate dream. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you don't mind, share your location and the time where you are right now. I always love knowing where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It begins with her, Lena. You trace her name gently across your thoughts, the way she sometimes writes it absent-mindedly on the corner of a notebook. She's ordinary in the most familiar of ways, rushing for coffee in the morning, sighing when her phone battery dips to 1%, laughing softly when a cat video makes her day feel lighter. Nothing about her suggests she's on the brink of something impossible. But then, one evening, sitting at a cafe with the clink of spoons and the rustle of pages around her, something shifts. She's stirring her lavender latte. She always orders lavender, though she never knows why, and she hears it. A man across the room, tapping his mug against the saucer, is staring into his cup. And in her mind, without moving his lips, she hears him think, I shouldn't have said that to her. I hope she forgives me. The words aren't sound, not exactly. They're more like a whisper that bypasses her ears and lands straight in her chest. She looks up sharply, expecting him to be talking on the phone, or maybe murmuring to himself. But his lips are still pressed tight. Her heart beats faster. She glances at another man, a student with headphones in, scribbling equations. And then, there it is again, his thoughts spilling carelessly. If I don't pass this exam, Mom's going to cry again. She gasps, too loud. The student doesn't notice. No one notices. You can almost feel the prickle of her skin, the way she presses her palms flat on the table to steady herself. She tests it, glancing at the waiter. And like flipping a switch, she hears him too. Table 4's cute, but I need to finish my shift. Heat floods her cheeks. This isn't possible. It shouldn't be possible. The night folds around her as she walks home, clutching her bag tightly against her side. Thoughts swirl from every passing man, snippets of worries, desires, half songs stuck in their heads. It's overwhelming, dizzying, like standing under a waterfall. She covers her ears, though it doesn't help. And when she closes her apartment door, sliding the lock into place, silence finally returns, for a moment. Because when her phone buzzes with a message from her boyfriend, Ethan, her heart flutters, steadying itself. Safe, she thinks, familiar. He's been her anchor through storms. The one who teases her when she frowns too hard at crossword puzzles. The one who buys her mint chocolate chip ice cream, though he doesn't like it himself. She presses the phone to her chest, relief washing through her. And yet, in the stillness of her apartment, she can't shake the memory of those strange whispers. The way they sounded so real, so raw. Was it madness? Exhaustion? Or the beginning of something she didn't ask for? She sets the phone down, staring at it as though it might explain itself. Then she laughs softly, almost nervously, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Tomorrow, she thinks. Tomorrow will feel normal again. But as she drifts to sleep, her final thought lingers like a pebble in her shoe. What if I can hear Ethan too? Morning breaks with a pale wash of sunlight, spilling across the sheets like warm honey. You open your eyes as Lena does, blinking into the quiet hum of the day. The phone buzzes on the nightstand. that familiar vibration that always pulls her back into reality. Ethan's name lights up the screen. For a moment, relief, normalcy. She swipes the message open, smiling faintly. Morning, beautiful. Can't wait to see you later. Her chest softens, the corners of her lips tugging upward. He's always sweet in the mornings, his words like soft brushstrokes across her heart. She clings to that sweetness, hoping it'll soothe the strange memory of last night. The voices, the whispers, the impossible ability she's trying to dismiss as imagination. But when she sees him later that afternoon, leaning casually against the counter at their favorite cafe, it happens again. His smile is wide, practiced, the kind that once melted her nerves into nothing. He kisses her cheek, the faint scent of cedar clinging to him, and then it slips through. Hope she doesn't notice the lipstick. God, why did I let her kiss me goodbye? Her breath catches in her throat. She pulls back slightly, searching his face. His lips hadn't moved, not even a flicker. Yet the thought had landed sharp and clear, like glass pressed against her skin. Her hands tremble as she wraps them around the lavender mug, the steam rising into her face. He's talking now, something light about a new movie he wants to watch. But beneath the words, beneath the practiced charm, his thoughts leak through again. I need to delete those texts before she checks my phone. A coldness trickles into her veins. She forces a nod, a smile too tight around the edges. You feel the weight of it, the moment when a world you trusted tilts on its axis. The cafe is suddenly too bright, the clinking of cups too sharp. She stirs her latte slowly, round and round, trying to pretend she didn't hear what she just heard. But the whispers come anyway, careless, relentless. Should I tell her now? No, not here. She'd make a scene. Her heart breaks quietly, not in a dramatic crack, but in a slow, silent unraveling. When she looks at him, really looks, she sees the tiny tells she ignored before. The quick glances at his phone, the way he's always 5 minutes late, the hollow chuckles when she mentions their future. She remembers the night he said he was too tired to call, yet she'd heard music playing faintly in the background. She remembers the unexplained cologne that wasn't his. The voices confirm what her heart already feared. She places her spoon down carefully, as though any louder movement would shatter her. Ethan, she says softly, how was your night? He smiles too easily. Fine, just fine. Missed you. If she knew I was with Rachel, her stomach twists. Rachel, a name she knows. A mutual friend, someone who had hugged her warmly at a party just weeks ago. The latte turns bitter in her mouth. She swallows hard, her throat dry. You can sense her struggle to stay composed, to not let him see the storm raging inside. There's a strange dignity in her silence, though it costs her dearly. She laughs faintly at his small jokes, nods when he talks about weekend plans, even squeezes his hand across the table. But inside, she is listening, and every thought that leaks through widens the crack in her heart. When they part ways outside, he kisses her temple lightly, like always. His hand lingers at her waist, but his thoughts betray him again. I'll text Rachel later. Can't stop now. The world feels suddenly fragile, the pavement shifting beneath her feet. She watches him walk away, tall and confident, disappearing into the blur of city streets. And there she stands, still and silent, the lavender taste of betrayal clinging to her lips. That night, she doesn't cry the way she thought she would. Instead, she sits curled on her couch, hugging her knees, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator. Her phone buzzes with another sweet message from him, but she doesn't open it. She just stares at the glow of the screen, her reflection faint in the glass. You can almost hear her thought, soft, trembling, but resolute. Maybe the whispers weren't a curse after all. Maybe they were a truth I was meant to find. Night falls heavier than usual, wrapping the city in a hush that feels lonelier than silence. You settle with Lena on her couch, the soft fabric worn in the shape of her body. The cushions holding the imprint of countless evenings before this one, but tonight the warmth is gone. Tonight she clutches the edges of a throw blanket, though the room isn't cold at all. Her phone lies face down on the coffee table, buzzing every so often. Ethan, with his practiced sweetness, sends little strings of words, "Good night, love," and "Dream of me." But Lena doesn't flip the phone over. She can't, because beneath every typed word she can already hear the truth hiding. The lies, the whispers she didn't ask to hear but now can't escape. Her heart aches, though it's not the sharp wound she expected. It's slower, quieter, like the ache in a muscle that's been overworked. She wonders if it was ever real, the smiles, the weekends away, the way he brushed his thumb against her palm as though memorizing her. Or had he always belonged half to someone else, and she had just chosen not to notice? You feel her body fold inward, her chin resting on her knees. There's something deeply human in the way she lets the pain flow quietly, without dramatic sobs, without throwing anything against the wall. Just breathing through it, staring at the ceiling as if it might answer the question circling in her chest. Did he ever love me? Or did he only love the way I made him feel? The questions don't have answers, not the kind she wants. Her eyes catch the little lavender mug on the counter, rinsed and drying upside down. She smiles faintly, even through the pain, remembering how she once joked that she and the mug were inseparable, her true loyal partner. The memory almost makes her laugh, but the sound doesn't come. Instead, she walks slowly to her bedroom, climbing under the covers like they're a shield. The hum of the city outside her window is steady, soothing in a way. But in her mind, his thoughts replay again and again. That name, Rachel, that betrayal. You sense her longing, not for him anymore, but for clarity, for stillness, for the kind of peace that doesn't require pretending. She closes her eyes and tries to imagine silence. True silence, a world where she can't hear anyone's thoughts but her own. Would it feel empty, or would it feel like freedom? Sleep comes in fragments that night, dreams scattered between images of Ethan smiling with someone else and her own hand reaching for something she can't quite see. She wakes with damp cheeks, though she never remembers crying. The morning is fragile. She brews tea instead of coffee, her hands moving automatically, the scent filling the air. She stares at the steam, almost hypnotized, and taps her finger against the counter. 1, 2, 3, a rhythm that keeps her grounded. When her phone rings, Ethan's name lighting the screen, she doesn't pick up. She watches it vibrate until it falls still. Then, for the first time, she powers it off completely. The silence that follows feels like a small victory, a breath of air after being underwater too long. She whispers to herself, almost like a vow, "I deserve better." And though she isn't sure what better means yet, the words sit solid in her chest. A promise to herself, faint but unshakable. You lean with her against the counter, feeling both her heartbreak and her courage. It's not loud, not dramatic, but quiet resilience, the kind that rebuilds piece by piece. As she sips her tea, she gazes at the calendar on the wall. Work meetings, deadlines, reminders scribbled in ink. Life doesn't stop, even when your heart does. She knows she has to step back into that world, the one where her boss, stern, distant, almost too sharp, waits with his clipped words and cool expressions. The thought of facing him tomorrow feels heavy, but part of her welcomes it, because if she stays in this apartment too long, her own thoughts might swallow her whole. And so, with a deep breath, she straightens her shoulders and whispers again, "I'll be okay. Not today, maybe. Not fully. But someday." The office greets you with its usual symphony, phones ringing faintly in the background, the shuffle of papers, the steady tapping of keyboards. The air carries that familiar blend of printer ink and stale coffee, a scent that clings to every corner of the building. For most, it's routine. For Lena, today, it feels heavier, like she's walking through a tunnel where each sound echoes louder than it should. And then there's him, Adrian. You see him through her eyes, tall, broad-shouldered, his suit always perfectly fitted, his dark hair smoothed back with almost severe precision. His presence commands a room without him ever needing to raise his voice. The kind of man who doesn't smile easily, who measures words before speaking them. To everyone else, he's intimidating, maybe even cold. But to Lena, now raw and bruised inside, his sharpness is oddly grounding. She watches him stride past the row of desks, his gaze clipped and focused. His footsteps are steady, purposeful. "Morning," he says, voice low but firm, acknowledging her presence without warmth. The kind of tone that makes interns sit straighter and seasoned employees double-check their work. Yet beneath that cool surface, Lena feels it, the faint hum of his thoughts brushing against her mind before she can stop them. She looks tired. Wonder if she's eating properly. Her breath hitches just slightly. The words are simple, almost careless, but they surprise her. From him, of all people. The man known for demanding perfection, for scolding late reports with a glance sharp enough to cut glass, is quietly worrying about her well-being. She shifts in her chair, pretending to organize her notes, though her heart is drumming harder than it should. Adrian moves on, issuing instructions with his usual precision, never pausing long enough for anyone to question him. But Lena can't forget that fleeting whisper in her mind. It lingers, softer than Ethan's deceit, but somehow louder in her heart. The day unfolds in its steady rhythm. Emails, meetings, deadlines. And always Adrian, hovering like a storm cloud at the edge of the office. His presence felt even when he's silent. His sharp gaze lands on her once, twice, maybe more than necessary. Each time she feels that hum again, faint but unmistakable. She works harder than she should. No one notices. Lena swallows. She hadn't expected kindness from him, even if it comes hidden beneath his harsh exterior. There's irritation, too, thoughts clipped with frustration at missed details from other employees, at schedules that don't align. But woven between those sharp edges, she catches glimpses of something else. A loneliness, perhaps? A weight he never shows, carried quietly in the corners of his mind. And strangely, she finds herself drawn to it. Not in the way of quick attraction, but in the way one recognizes another person's hidden cracks. At lunch, she sits alone at the small kaffa table in the break room, her fork pushing listlessly at a salad. The others chatter around her, laughter rising in bursts, but she's wrapped in her own thoughts. When Adrian passes by, mug of black coffee in hand, his eyes flicker briefly to her plate. Barely touched it again. Why won't she take care of herself? Her fingers tighten on the fork. You can almost feel the warmth pressing against her chest, unexpected and confusing. She tells herself it doesn't matter, he's her boss, distant, unapproachable. Yet she can't deny the subtle comfort in knowing that beneath his stern commands, he notices her. He sees her. The afternoon stretches on, her mind tugging in two directions, toward the lingering ache of Athena's betrayal and toward the quiet pull of Adriana's unspoken concern. She wonders if she's imagining it, if maybe her ability is playing tricks on her. But every time she hears him, the words are steady, sincere, unmasked. As the office lights dim in the evening, Lena gathers her things, exhaustion settling heavy in her bones. Adrian's voice cuts through the quiet. "Don't stay late tonight. Go home." His tone is firm, leaving no room for argument. But in her mind, his thought drifts through like a secret carried on the wind. She deserves rest. More than anyone here. And for the first time in days, Lena's lips curve into the faintest smile. The days that follow unfold with a rhythm Lena doesn't quite recognize. Work should feel ordinary, the kind of repetition that numbs the mind. Now there's a pulse beneath it all. Because no matter how stern his expression, no matter how clipped his voice, Adrian's thoughts are never as harsh as his exterior. And Lena, with her unwanted gift, hears what no one else can. She learns that his sighs aren't just about deadlines. Another pointless meeting. I'd rather be reviewing their work myself. She learns that his silence isn't emptiness. Her presentation was good, better than mine would have been at her age. And sometimes she hears the tiniest cracks in his armor. I'm so tired of this loneliness. It unsettles her, the intimacy of it. She never asked for access to his private world, yet now she's inside it, seeing the tenderness and vulnerability hidden behind his broad shoulders and sharp suits. It makes her chest tighten in ways she doesn't expect. Still on the surface, Adrian remains the same. His voice cuts through the office with precision, his jaw always set. When a colleague misses a detail, he's quick to correct them. When Lena's report runs a minute over, he raises an eyebrow that makes her stammer despite herself. Yet even then, beneath the stern gaze, she hears it. She's trying. She just needs more confidence. And there's something almost comforting in the contrast. His outside world is hard and demanding. His inside world, the one only she can hear, is gentler, even kind. One evening, she stays late despite his earlier instruction, chasing a project deadline that refuses to untangle itself. The office is quiet now, just the hum of fluorescent lights and the scratch of her pen against paper. When Adrian walks past and sees her still there, his footsteps halt. You're still here? His voice carries its usual steel. She lifts her eyes, forcing a small smile. Just finishing this up. His frown deepens. You'll burn yourself out. And then his thought follows, softer, unguarded. She deserves someone to take care of her. The words wash over her, catching her completely off guard. She looks at him a second too long, her heart stumbling over itself. Quickly, she drops her gaze back to the papers, hoping he can't see the way her cheeks flush. He lingers for a moment, as if debating whether to push further, then simply says, "Don't stay too late," before retreating to his office. Lena sits there, pen still in hand, her chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. She tells herself it's nothing, just a glimpse into his private mind. But the truth hums louder beneath the excuse. She felt seen. Truly seen. And after weeks of betrayal and loneliness, that feeling is almost intoxicating. The next morning, she notices details she never had before. The way his tie is always slightly loosened by noon, the faint lines near his eyes when he concentrates, the way his hands rest firmly on the table during meetings, grounding everyone with their steadiness. She wonders what others would think if they knew he wasn't just the harsh man they feared, but also the quiet soul who thinks about whether she's eaten. During lunch, she sits across from him in a small conference room while going over project notes. His words are clipped, efficient, but his thoughts? She's smarter than she realizes. I hope she sees it one day. Her heart stirs, tangled between gratitude and confusion. She bites her lip to keep from smiling, nodding instead, her voice calm as she explains her ideas. And you feel her inner conflict, still nursing the sting of betrayal, still fragile from the pain of Ethan's lies, yet finding herself pulled toward this unexpected tenderness. It isn't a rush of romance, not yet. It's a quiet intrigue, a warmth blooming where she thought she'd only feel cold for a long time. That night, lying in bed, she turns the memory of Adrian's thoughts over and over like a smooth stone in her hand. She wonders if maybe, just maybe, the whispers aren't a curse after all. Maybe they're guiding her towards something she never would have noticed otherwise. And though she tries to close her eyes and think of nothing, one thought stays with her, steady and undeniable. Why does his concern feel different than anyone else's? Morning comes with a steady drizzle, raindrops racing down Lena's window like tiny silver rivers. She presses her forehead against the cool glass for a moment before heading to work, the soft patter almost soothing. Yet beneath the calm surface of the day, her thoughts tangle themselves into knots. She tells herself it's simple. Adrian is her boss. Harsh, demanding. A man whose approval feels like winning a medal and whose criticism feels like being crushed under stone. But she knows too much now. Every clipped command, every raised brow, every stern silence carries another layer one only she can hear. And that secret knowledge makes her heart shift in ways she doesn't want to admit. By mid-morning, the office is buzzing with tension. A deadline looms, files scatter across desks, and Adrian's voice cuts sharply through the noise. Focus, we don't have time for mistakes. His tone is steel, unyielding. Lena straightens in her chair, fingers poised over the keyboard. And then his thought brushes against her like a hidden current. She is already doing more than anyone else. Don't let her doubt herself. The contrast almost makes her laugh, though she hides it behind a cough. How can one man sound so cold and yet think so gently? The day unfolds in a strange rhythm, her nerves tightening at his stern words, then softening the instant she hears the truth behind them. It's a tug-of-war between irritation and intrigue, between wanting to roll her eyes and wanting to lean closer. Later, during a team meeting, Lena presents her section of the project. Her voice trembles slightly, though she forces herself to stand tall. Adrian watches her with that unreadable expression, his jaw set, his eyes sharp. When she stumbles over a detail, his voice cuts in, "Be precise." If you can't defend your work, it won't hold. Her cheeks burn. The room feels too small, too bright. She grips the edge of the table to steady herself. But then, like a lifeline, his thought follows. Don't falter now. You know this better than anyone. Prove it. Something steadies inside her. She lifts her chin, clears her throat, and continues with a confidence she didn't know she still had. By the time she finishes, the room is quiet. Even Adrian nods once, curtly. She did it, good. That single thought hums in her chest long after the meeting ends, yet irritation lingers too. His harsh words sting even if his thoughts soothe. Walking back to her desk, she mutters under her breath, couldn't he just say what he means, for once? The hours drag into evening. As the office empties, Lena finds herself still at her desk, lost in spreadsheets. Adrian passes by, his tie loosened, his sleeves rolled up. Still here, his voice, as usual, carries no softness. She forces a smile. Work doesn't finish itself. He doesn't reply, but she hears it anyway. She deserves to rest. I should send her home. Go home, Lena, he says finally, almost as if her presence weighs on him. Irritation prickles her. She stands, gathering her things. Maybe I don't want to go home. The words slip out sharper than she intended, her eyes flicking to his. His brows lift slightly, just a flicker of surprise. And then the thought, what is she holding inside? Who hurt her? Her throat tightens. For a moment, she wants to tell him everything about Ethan, about the betrayal, about the whispers that won't leave her alone. But instead, she just nods and brushes past him, her pulse racing. On the walk home, umbrella in hand, she replays the day. The clash of his words against his thoughts. The way her irritation sparks like static around him, only to be softened by the quiet warmth she hears inside his mind. It's exhausting, confusing, and yet she can't deny the flicker of intrigue. By the time she reaches her apartment, the rain still tapping gently against the glass, she sinks into her couch with a sigh. She hugs her lavender mug close, sipping slowly. Her thoughts drift to Ethan, but only briefly. He feels like a shadow now, blurred at the edges. Adrian, though, Adrian feels like a puzzle she eyes into sure she wants to solve, but can't stop herself from touching. As sleep edges closer, one thought lingers. What if his outside never matches his inside? Could I live with both? The week wears on, and Lena feels herself pulled into a strange new rhythm. Work is no gentler, deadlines no kinder, and Adrian no less demanding. Yet something shifts in the air between them, subtle, almost invisible to anyone else. For Lena, though, it's undeniable. She carries the weight of his hidden thoughts like secrets tucked in her pocket. One afternoon, a storm lashes against the office windows, rain streaking the glass in frantic lines. The power flickers once, twice, before settling into a dim glow. The room feels smaller, quieter, as though the storm outside has folded the building into itself. Lena is alone at her desk when the sound of raised voices carries from the lobby. She stands instinctively, stepping closer, and sees a delivery man arguing with the receptionist. His voice is sharp, frustration spilling out like cracks in a wall. The receptionist looks flustered, shrinking beneath the weight of it. Before Lena can move, Adrian strides in. His voice cuts through the tension with a single command. "That's enough." The delivery man stiffens, mutters something under his breath, and storms out into the rain. The receptionist exhales shakily, cheeks flushed. Adrian nods once, dismissing her gently, then turns and finds Lena watching. For a heartbeat, the air stills. His gaze lingers on her, sharp and unreadable. But his thought brushes against her like a thread of warmth. She looks frightened. I hope she knows she's safe. Something softens inside her. She hadn't realized her hands were clenched until she feels them loosen. Later, as the storm rages and the office empties, Lena stays behind to finish her work. She tells herself it's just to catch up, but deep down, she knows the quiet draws her in, the chance to breathe without the chatter of others. She's startled when Adrian appears at her desk, jacket slung over his arm. "Still here?" His voice holds its usual edge, but his eyes flicker with something else. "I wanted to finish this report," she answers, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. He studies her for a moment, then softer than she expects. "You shouldn't walk home alone in this storm." And his thought slipping through, "If anything happened to her, I'd never forgive myself." Her chest tightens. She tries to focus on the papers, but the words blur. The rain beats harder against the glass, like a drum urging her heart faster. "Come on," he says, his tone clipped again. "I'll drive you." The car ride is quiet, save for the soft swish of windshield wipers. Lena clasps her lavender thermos in her lap, the steam fogging faintly against the windows. Adrian keeps his eyes on the road, his jaw set, the glow of passing streetlights carving shadows across his face. But his thoughts drift steadily into her, each one an anchor against the storm. She's too quiet. Did someone hurt her? She deserves better than whatever weight she's carrying. Her throat tightens with the urge to answer, to tell him she hears him, that his hidden tenderness is louder than his words. But she stays silent, tracing circles against the thermos lid with her thumb. When he pulls up in front of her building, the rain still coming down hard, he doesn't look at her right away. Instead, he grips the steering wheel for a moment too long, as if studying himself. "Get inside safely," he says finally, his voice softer than usual. And then the thought, so clear she almost shivers, "I don't want this drive to end." Her fingers pause on the door handle. For a moment, she imagines leaning closer, confessing everything, the whispers, the betrayal, the way his hidden thoughts have become her only steady place. But she swallows the urge, offers a small smile, and whispers, "Thank you." Climbing the steps to her apartment, her heart still pounding, she realizes something has changed. Not just in him, but in her. Ethan feels like a distant ache now, a story fading at the edges. Adrian is present, alive in every whisper, every unspoken word she isn't meant to hear. And as she curls beneath her blanket that night, the storm still echoing beyond the glass, she whispers to herself, "I think I trust him more than I should." The morning sun breaks clean and golden after the storm, brushing the streets with a kind of freshness that makes everything feel possible. Lena steps into the office with damp hair still curling at the ends, clutching her lavender thermos like a talisman. The building hums with its usual rhythm, but for her, something feels different. Lighter, almost. Adrian is already there, standing by the window with a file in hand, his silhouette framed by the bright sky. He doesn't turn when she enters, but she feels the shift in the air, the invisible tether pulling taut between them. "Morning," he says, his tone brisk as ever. But his thought drifts through her mind, steady and warm. She looks brighter today. Good. I like that. Her cheeks heat despite herself. She busies her hands with papers, though her heart thrums in her chest. The day unfolds in a blur of meetings and tasks, yet Lena finds herself hyper-aware of every moment Adrian is near. The brush of his sleeve as he passes behind her chair, the way his gaze lingers a second too long when she explains her ideas, the faint crease in his brow when she frowns at her screen. By lunchtime, she's restless. She heads to the rooftop terrace, craving air, craving space. The city stretches wide around her, the wind tugging at her hair. She closes her eyes, trying to quiet her mind. Then footsteps, firm, familiar. "You should eat," Adrian says, appearing beside her with his own cup of black coffee. "I'm not really hungry," she replies softly. He doesn't argue aloud, but his thought slips through like a sigh. Asterisk. She always says that. Why does she starve herself of comfort? Her throat tightens. She turns to him, the words tumbling out before she can stop them. "Why do you always notice?" His brows draw together, surprised. "Notice what?" She swallows. Her secret hovers on her tongue, too heavy, too fragile. She shakes her head instead. Nothing. But he studies her, his eyes searching hers with an intensity that makes her want to step back and forward all at once. The silence stretches. Then his voice, low and measured. "You're stronger than you think. You just don't believe it yet." Her heart stumbles. Not because of the words themselves, but because they echo the thoughts she had heard from him days ago. Spoken now, aloud, like he's offering her a piece of himself. And for the first time, she doesn't just hear his thoughts. She feels her own slipping free. "I've been hurt," she whispers, her gaze fixed on the skyline. "Someone I trusted wasn't who I thought they were." Adrian doesn't ask questions. He doesn't press. He just stands beside her, silent, his presence solid as stone. But his thought wraps around her like a quiet embrace. Whoever hurt her was a fool. She deserves so much more. Her eyes sting. She laughs softly to keep the tears away, brushing her hair back. "You always sound so harsh," she says, glancing at him. "But sometimes I think maybe you're not." The corner of his mouth lifts almost imperceptibly. Maybe. The moment hangs between them, fragile and charged. Lena's pulse races, her breath catching in her chest. She doesn't move, but the air feels alive with confessions neither of them is ready to voice. The afternoon drifts on, but something has shifted irreversibly. In the quiet glances across the office, in the way her heart steadies when he's near, in the way his thoughts soften whenever they brush against her. That night, lying in bed, Lena stares at the ceiling, her heart restless. She replays his voice, his words, his thoughts. And then she admits it, if only to herself. "I want to believe in him. I want to risk it." And though fear still lingers, there's a new thread woven through her chest. Hope, tentative but undeniable. The days begin to carry a rhythm that feels almost like music. Work is still demanding, of course. Emails pile up, deadlines loom, and Adrian remains exacting in every meeting. Yet beneath the surface, something softer has taken root between you and him, something unspoken yet steady. You notice it in the small ways first. The way he pauses just long enough for you to speak during discussions, giving you space others don't get. The way his gaze settles on you in crowded rooms, grounding you when you start to drift. And most of all, in the thoughts you hear, those quiet, unguarded fragments of him that no one else will ever know. She calms the chaos in my head. I wish I could tell her how much she matters. The words hum in your mind long after they're gone, lingering like echoes in a canyon. And you wonder if maybe, just maybe, you're not imagining the warmth in his eyes when they find yours. One evening, you're both the last ones left in the office. The light is low, the city humming faintly outside the glass windows. You're bent over a report when Adrian steps into the quiet, setting a cup of tea by your side. You blink at it. This isn't coffee, I know. His tone is as clipped as ever, but his thought brushes through. She never drinks enough tea. It calms her. Something in your chest unfurls. You wrap your hands around the mug, the warmth seeping into your palms. Thank you, you whisper, and for once the words feel like more than politeness. Silence stretches between you, but it isn't uncomfortable. It's full, alive with everything you're not yet saying. Finally, you draw a breath. Adrian, do you ever feel like people see only what you let them see? His eyes narrow, thoughtful, all the time. And his thought echoing immediately, especially with you. I want you to see more. Your heart stumbles. You meet his gaze, the air thick with possibility. Maybe they're wrong, you murmur. Maybe there's more to you than they think. For the first time, his stern mask falters. Not much, just the faintest curve at the corner of his mouth, a softness in his eyes. But for you, it's enough. The moment lingers, suspended like a held breath. You don't lean closer, neither does he. But the bond between you sharpens, a line drawn not in words, but in trust. Later, at home, you sit with your lavender mug pressed close, replaying every glance, every thought, every kindness. You still wonder, was it love growing in you, or just comfort after pain? But as you close your eyes, the answer whispers through you like a tide. It feels like both, and maybe that's enough. In the days that follow, his words remain firm, his exterior unyielding, but the connection is no longer fragile. It deepens in the quiet spaces, your shared silences, your exchanged glances, the invisible language between his thoughts and your heart. And though fear still lingers at the edges, you begin to trust it, to trust him, to trust yourself again. For the first time since Ethan, you feel safe letting go. Safe enough to believe, safe enough to fall. The weeks pass, and with them, the wound Ethan left fades into a distant scar. You think of him less and less now, just a shadow that doesn't sting anymore. In his place, something else has taken root, steady, warm, and undeniably real. Adrian doesn't change overnight. He is still stern in meetings, still sharp when details slip. But beneath it all, you no longer hear only steel. His thoughts, those quiet confessions you're not supposed to know, have grown softer, clearer, braver. She makes the day bearable. If only I could tell her. Until one evening, the truth finally finds its voice. The office is nearly empty, golden light spilling across the desks. You're gathering your things when Adrian appears, his jacket draped over his arm. For once, there's hesitation in his stance, a pause that makes your chest tighten. Lena, he says, your name weighted differently than usual. Stay a moment. You set your bag down slowly, heart hammering. He doesn't look away. His jaw's tense, but his eyes, those steady, stormy eyes, hold something you've never seen before. I'm not good at this, he admits, voice low. I don't open up easily. But with you, it's different. And his thought, echoing almost in sync with the words, please don't walk away. I can't lose her. Tears prick your eyes, not from sadness, but from the relief of finally hearing aloud what you've long known in silence. You step closer, your voice trembling but certain. You don't have to be perfect with me. I just need you to be real. For a long breath, you both stand there, his walls lowered, your heart wide open. And when he finally reaches for your hand, his touch is steady, grounding. It isn't a grand gesture. No dramatic declarations, no sweeping romance. Just two people, scarred in their own ways, choosing to trust, to heal, to love. And in that moment, this is your happy ending. The story drifts gently now, softening like twilight settling over a quiet town. You hold on to the warmth of Lena's journey, not the betrayals or the storms, but the calm that followed, the trust she discovered, the love that finally felt safe. You imagine the two of them walking side by side, no longer boss and employee, no longer strangers bound by silence. Instead, they are partners in every sense. His sharp edges softened by her presence, her wounds soothed by his quiet steadiness. Together, they build something simple and enduring: late-night talks over steaming mugs, laughter shared across cluttered desks, moments of silence that no longer feel empty. The whispers that once unsettled Lena now feel like blessings. Not curses, not burdens, but reminders of how far she's come. She no longer fears the truth behind men's minds, because she has found one who matches his inner world to his outer actions, a man who, in his thoughts and in his words, chooses her. As you let the image fade, you breathe slower, deeper. The lights in your own space feel softer now. The hum of background sounds more like a lullaby. You imagine sinking into comfort, letting the story wrap around you like a blanket. And maybe, just maybe, you carry a piece of it with you, the reminder that even after hurt, even after betrayal, tenderness can bloom again. But sometimes love comes quietly, steadily, and just when you least expect it. So rest easy now. Let the whispers of the story drift into dreams. And when morning comes, may you wake with the same quiet certainty Lena found, that love, real love, always finds its way.